Hi friends, and thanks for joining me again. And it's tax season, which means some of you are probably pretty excited because you know you get some money back from the government. Some of you are kind of dreading it because you know you have to pay or your taxes are really complicated to do. And then others of you, maybe the tax accountants out there, know that this is the time of year when you have basically no personal life until about mid-April. So it's kind of up and down depending on the different people. So here's my take really quick though on frugal taxes. Basically how you can get your taxes done, in the least expensive manner or at least the most efficient manner that really does maximize, either how much you're going to get back or, of course balancing it out with, how much time and effort you spend and how much it's going to stress you out, that sort of stuff. So you basically have two choices. We can either do our taxes on our own or we can hire out. And honestly, I've been on both sides of the fence on this one. A long time ago, when our taxes were really simple, it was like I had a job, my husband had a job, we had our W-2s and that was pretty much it. We could do our taxes on our own and it was really easy to do them. I didn't want to pay anyone to do them because I knew that by paying someone to do them, it would make it to where we wouldn't make, either get as much back or, I don't want to have to pay someone to help me get my own money back anyway. So honestly, I'm a big fan of doing our own taxes, but I will say there was a time in our lives when they stopped being so easy and so straightforward and they started becoming more complicated. I started doing YouTube and just some other different, incomes coming in, that sort of stuff, and it made it a lot more difficult to figure out what to do. And instead of getting money back when I would input the information in, it said that we owed, and I really didn't want to pay. I at least wanted to break even, not pay. So that year, I actually decided to go ahead and try it with an accountant. And I found the accountant that I'm using now, and he was really good. I really enjoy him doing our taxes for us. When I took all of our information over to him, when I was putting the information online, it said I was going to owe about $400. And I was like, no, even though that's a small-ish amount, I still don't want to have to pay it. So I went to the accountant and he looked it over and he's like, oh, you do YouTube, that's cool. That means you can write off all these, business expenses. And I'm like, what, really? My camera, like the SD cards that we use, just all this stuff. Even our home office, because that's technically a work from home job. He said, okay, well, relative to the size of your house, if your home office takes up 10% of your house, now you're able to write off 10% of your home expenses, your bills, all your property taxes, all this stuff. And so once he went through all of the stuff that we were able to write off that I didn't know about, he actually made it to where we got a $700 return instead of having to pay the $400. And I'm not sure, it's been a while since I, paid this, but I'm pretty sure it was somewhere around in the $120 range. So as you can see, it was definitely worth the money. I guess in a nutshell, what I'm saying is, honestly, if people's taxes are really easy, I honestly am a big fan of just doing them ourselves. So I don't honestly see why it would be a benefit to hire someone, because if you were to do them yourselves, you could probably get exactly the same amount of money back. You just have to pay in order to get it. However, I will say that when they start getting more complicated, I definitely think it's a benefit to go ahead and hire someone. And businesses for sure should pretty much always have their taxes done for them because it's all a write-off anyway, and it just makes sense, to make sure that we're maximizing, all of the deductions that we get, because, otherwise we could be letting, money slip through the cracks that we don't want to, They might be able to make it to where you get an even bigger return. So it really does go both ways. Honestly, so I don't really have a straightforward answer. Oh yeah, the only frugal way is to do them yourselves. Not necessarily, and I don't honestly think it's always a good idea to hire someone either. It's honestly better to do both, depending on each person's situation. And I will say though that when you hire someone, if you ever get audited, they're the ones who go to bat for you, not having to do it yourselves. So it can save you a ton of stress now when you're trying to do your taxes, but also down the road if you get audited. So again, if your taxes are complicated and you're worried about an audit, it might be worth it to go ahead and hire someone. However, if your taxes are really simple and you get audited, it would not be that big of a deal to go ahead and just work with the IRS, employee who's auditing you and, just get through that really quickly. Because I have a friend who just got audited and it was really no big deal at all, but their taxes were simple and they did them themselves. So, all right, so if you do them yourselves, my favorite way to do them is actually through a website called Tax Act online. It is basically a website where you can do them for free. Unlike a lot of the other, ones like TurboTax and other stuff, you have to actually pay for that. TaxAct is free. You can input all of your information right there. There is pretty much anything and everything that you need right there. And it only charges you if you want to e-file. So again, you could just print it out and then send it off, and then it is completely and totally free. Or you could pay the whatever it is, $15 or $25 or something really low to go ahead and e-file, and then you can get your return faster that way. So if you do them yourselves and you don't want to do the old-fashioned paper method, TaxAct Online is a really good choice. It's really easy to use, and again, it's really like straightforward and user-friendly, and it comes, everything that you could possibly imagine that you could, input, it's on there. So really good and easy to use. Another thing though I really want to touch on really quickly is for the people who maybe pay to get their money sooner. So a lot of times you can go into these tax places and you can give them your W-2s. They can estimate how much of a return that you're going to get and then give you money that same day. The thing is, they take huge amounts of your tax return in order to do that. So if you are going to get a tax return of like $2,000 and they're like, okay, well, our fee is like 25% of that, they'll give you $1,500 of it today. But honestly, I think it's a way better choice to try and get by it if you can. If you're not like completely, in a bind. If you can go ahead and just wait for your money and then get the whole $2,000, a month from now, it's a way better choice than, going into one of these walk-in places and then getting your money same day and then having to pay these crazy absorbent fees. So that's my take on how to do frugal taxes and how to maximize the amount of money that you're getting. Again, it depends on each person's situation and, how complicated or how simple they are. It may be a benefit to try and do it on your own. And if you've never done them on your own and you're worried about it, you're like, well, maybe they are simple, but I don't know because I've never tried it on my own. If you know about how much you're going to get it back or how much you got last year, say you have the same job this year as you did last year, so your income's relatively the same, and you know how much you got last year, you could always input the information into, say, TaxAct Online, and then see how much it says that you would get as a return. And then if it doesn't say what you think it should, then you just don't have to submit it. So you don't have to actually file it just because you put in the information. Hopefully that makes sense. So, but if it does, if you're like, oh yeah, I usually get back this much, and when I put it in, it says that much, then now you can do it on your own, and you can, get it done for cheaper and not have to pay someone. So anyway, there's again my take on the frugal taxes, how to maximize your tax return. Or, if it's too stressful for you to do it on your own, or if you're worried about it, or if they're too complicated, you may be able to benefit from a tax accountant. So anyway, hopefully this video is helpful to you. I'm Frugal Green Girl. We'll see you next time.